The Independent National Electoral Commission has released new figures of uncollected permanent voter cards. We look at this and other issues surrounding the voter registration exercise with Festus Okoye of INEC. And Nigeria Senate says it will amend the Electoral Act to reintroduce direct primaries. We'll unpack this with analysis of its implications right here on The Breakfast. And of course, as usual, we have in-depth analysis of today's newspaper headlines. A very good morning to you. We're back with The Breakfast right here on PlusTvAfrica. It's a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday morning. We're reaching you live from our studios right here at Victoria Island, Lagos. My name is Kofi Bartels, and we begin The Breakfast with a look at the trending stories, the top trending segment right here. A video making the rounds on social media showing the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra group, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, saying to his people, quote, "I want our people to be very calm. I want Biafra land to be calm and peaceful." He says, calm and very, very peaceful. We're fighting to defend our land and not to kill, and our people, and not to kill them. We're fighting to defend them. This is why I'm here, and I will continue rather to do so until we get victory. You know, it's rare to have the leader of IPOB speak directly to his people. He's been in detention in the DSS facility. He's been in court, appearing several times, and he has not had the opportunity to speak directly to his people. Let's roll the tape and really watch that video and see what he said.
I'm not at all. What should I do? It's what we expect to have. But I want our people to be very calm. I want Biafra land to be calm and peaceful. Calm and very, very peaceful. We are fighting to defend our people, not to kill them. We are fighting to defend them. That's why I'm here. I will continue to do so until we get victory.
Quite interesting, and of course, it's a kind of a new development, if you ask, because we hardly have the man granting almost what seemed like an interview. I mean, the words he uttered and the words he said there, directly speaking to his people, directly speaking to the supporters of IPOB, those in southeastern Nigeria and of the southeastern extraction or other extractionists who support the IPOB agitation, and try to explain, give his stance on what's been happening in that part of the country. We all know, and it's well documented, the incidents of killing, the incidents of carnage in the southeast, which is part of Biafra as far as their own agenda, the IPOB agenda to, have a secession and to fight for a new nation is concerned. He talked about, peace. He talked about peace, and this is not the usual, rhetoric we're used to getting from Nnamdi Kanu when he's saying, "I want people to be calm." This is not the usual rhetoric, and he's talking about remaining peaceful, very, very peaceful, and also seeming to distance IPOB from the killing of people in the southeastern part of the country. I mean, we've had killings in Anambra State, we've had killings in Imo State, we've had killings in Abia State. It's well documented. Even Ebonyi State has its own incidents. So it seems to be distancing himself and IPOB from these killings, saying we're fighting to defend our people, not to kill them. Probably also maybe saying to those who are inflicting damage and carnage in the southeast, maybe saying to them, you are on your own, or as we say in Nigeria, OYO. So he has made this statement. Don't forget, IPOB had a few months ago called on the Nigerian army to do all it could to fish out those who were behind the violence in the southeast and behind the killings and the attacks on different targets, both private and public. So this is what we have seen with IPOB. Now, he appeared before the court to take his plea in the continuation of his case, but he made that plea when he appeared in court for his trial. You can see he was still wearing his Fendi outfit, the same outfit that he wore when he was extradited, or some would say extraordinarily rendered back into the country. And he has been wearing it ever since. It's been a subject of discussion between his lawyer and his legal team, ably represented, or led by, rather, Chief Michael Zeko and the trial judge, Milord the Honorable Justice Binta Nyako, who has previously ordered that he be allowed to change his clothing. Indeed, the DSS, it's now clear, has actually offered him clothes. That's what they said. The DSS also has given him the opportunity to wear different clothes. I mean, when the governor of Anambra State, Charles Chukwuma Soludo, visited him in detention, it was clear to see he was wearing an Atletico Madrid football tracksuit. So he probably, it's clear now, he's choosing to wear that particular outfit to court. This is the first time Nnamdi Kanu will personally address the issue of spiraling violence in the southeastern part of the country. Before now, he's been speaking through third parties. Before now, he's been speaking through proxies, including his lawyers and the governor of Anambra State, Chukwuma Soludo. Of course, Kanu is facing trial for alleged treason, and he has been in the custody of the DSS since he was brought back to Nigeria. Chukwuma Soludo, governor of Anambra State, said, when he visited him in May, that his visit was to felicitate with Kanu, and also, this was as part of his wider consultations on the issue of violence in the southeast with critical stakeholders, of which Kanu is one, with a view to bringing lasting peace and security in the southeast. Anambra State has been one of the beneficiaries of violence and killings. Is well documented. So I mean, it seems to be that the efforts are beginning to yield fruits and results, with such a statement coming from Kanu. It remains to be seen if this will have any effect on the ground. A time, like they say, will tell. Let's move on to the next trending story. Of course, strikes have been a mainstay as far as the public sector in Nigeria is concerned. I mean, the ongoing ASU strike is well documented. We don't need to explain that to you. We have strike by workers in the health sector right now being an issue. There's a video also trending around country on social media in particular, which shows some patients who were trying to access a health facility in Ogun State, in Abeokuta. This happens to be the General Hospital in Abeokuta, Ogun State, not being able to do so. Now, this is quite bizarre, if you ask me. This is very bizarre, but it's not unknown to this part of the world. When you talk about public sector strikes, it's not unknown to this part of the world when you talk about public sector strikes. It's quite bizarre, but there you see it. You can see a lady lying on the floor. This lady was brought there by her family to seek a medical attention. She's not the only one who is seeking medical attention, but you can see that she cannot get in because of the strike. It's quite sad. And this is some of the spin-off we have, and of course the ripple effect as far as public sector strikes are concerned. People, the regular people, the civilians get to suffer at the end of the day. I mean, I personally have been a victim of this when I had to treat my old man, my late father, in the hospital, and when there was a strike, the workers in the hospital, General Hospital, a tertiary health institution, said, they can't work anymore, and it wasn't funny at all. So patients who are in need of medical attention are currently stranded at the General Hospital in Ogun State. This is in Abeokuta, and we hope that something will be done. All this is because the civil servants have started a strike in the state, and they're vowing not to resume work at all until the government settles their demands. All right. So organized labor in Ogun State, in particular the Nigeria Labour Congress, on Monday said that they had played their part to meet the government's to settle the demands that they had, but there was no headway, and this necessitated strike action. Now, when it comes to the health sector, what we usually hear is that, people say that they swore the Hippocratic oath, to attend to anyone who is in need of medical care. And people will sometimes will say, oh, you saw the hypocritic code, and look at people are in care, you're going on strike, and they have nowhere to turn to. And because of the cost of healthcare in this country, especially private health care, the general hospitals, the public health facilities are the ones that the ordinary people, those who can't afford to pay the huge amounts that will be charged by the private hospitals, they have only the public hospitals to go to. So when the public hospitals are on strike, the man on the street, the average Nigerian who may not be able to afford the money to pay, even to buy a card in the private hospital, will be stranded. And that's what you see. It's quite unfortunate. So, some people point accusing fingers at the health practitioners, the doctors, the nurses, and the health workers to say, you're on strike, but people are suffering. Why don't you give them attention? Because nothing is worth a human life. Human life is more expensive than what the government is more expensive than what the government is owing you. So you ought not to go on strike. Now, this is the debate we've been having, and it's really sad to see that because of government being unable to meet labor demands, labor has to go on strike, and the people have to suffer. We need to have a way forward when things like this happen, because we cannot just leave people to die like that. I mean, as a journalist over the years, I've had opportunity to report, to comment, and to discuss issues of strike. And most times you go to the hospital, sometimes you would see they have what they call a skeletal services. So some of them will go on strike. Maybe the nurses will go, and some doctors will remain. Not all of them, But in this case, you can see the lady had nowhere to go to. It is quite sad, and we hope that the things in Ogun State pick up as quickly as possible. They're talking about 2023, but what are we going to vote for? What are people going to vote for? Let's move on. This is another bizarre one. Now think about this headline and try to picture it for a second. Property developer defrauds 70 house seekers. And I'm not talking about 5 or 10 house seekers. We're talking about 70 house seekers. This is quite bizarre. All right, 70. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. 70 house seekers. Now, some house seekers actually, they fainted in Lagos after realizing that they had been duped by 2 developers, Oluwasegun Adewara and one Okeo. The developers, according to the reports that we have, had since gone into hiding. They allegedly defrauded no fewer than 70 prospective tenants. Now, how do you even begin to do that? 70 prospective tenants at Lawanson. This is a suburb of the Surulere area of Lagos State. It was gathered that the prospective tenants visited the building, which was under construction, to inspect the premises, and afterwards they made payments to these developers. And after confirming the payments, it was learned that the suspects issued receipts to these victims and set aside separate dates for them to take ownership of the apartment. Now, it's reported that things, however, took a turn for the worse when the people got to the house at number 16 Zamba Street in Lawanson on the specified dates given by the developers, but discovered that the number of prospective tenants in that building outnumbered the apartments. It's a one-story building. The number of prospective tenants outnumbered the number of apartments in the building. And of course, for some of them, the only option was to faint. It's quite bizarre. One of them, he came all the way from Plateau State. He's an indigenous of Plateau State, but he's a Nigerian, of course. That's what is important. And he stays in Lagos State. He said, quote, I paid 600,000 naira for a mini flat for a year directly to the account of the developer on April 26, 2020. When we say, quote, when I visited the house, I noticed that the work at the site was less as it was left for them to fix only the doors and windows. He said and continued to say, so they gave last Monday to collect the keys to my apartment, but when I got there, the developer told me the place was not ready, and of course the rest, they say, is history. The developers are nowhere to be found, he says, and we have yet to hear from them. Neither are we hearing from the owners of the land and their lawyers. Over 120 people paid for 14 flats 14 flats in this building, and more people are still coming. That is not even the end. He says more people are still coming. The money people paid, he says, would be about 60 million naira, because some people made advance payments for 5 years, and they also gave us receipts. The matter, they say, has been reported to the Interior Police Station. So he says that You have over 140 people who paid for 14 flats in this building. And he says more are still coming. More are on their way. This is in Lagos, where, where estate agents have forced landlords, encouraged them, let me use the word encourage them, to spike up and hike up rent. If you see, an apartment, maybe 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom for 600,000 naira, you go on your knees, you thank God, you go to church, or you go to mosque and do Thanksgiving. So the cost of rent in Lagos is outrageous. We in Lagos, I live in Lagos. This is where I reside, and this is where I pay my rent. It is outrageous. So for people to be put through this, in the midst of the difficulty of the economy for many people, in the midst of the spike on the rent market in Lagos State, people are having to pay 2 million naira for a 2-bedroom apartment downstairs. If you go to a building and then the upstairs, you pay 2.5 a year. That is apart from paying your legal fees. They have a legal charge. You're paying caution fee. You're paying a service charge. All right, and you're paying maybe some other development levy. I don't know. It's too much. And I think the government of Lagos State needs to realize that sometimes government can actually step in to have a market control, all right, price control mechanism, because it's become outrageous in Lagos State, where in other parts of Nigeria you're paying for a 2-bedroom flat maybe 600,000, 700,000 naira. You're paying for a 1-bedroom flat, maybe 400,000 naira. 300,000 naira, 500,000 naira. You're paying in Lagos State. You're paying for, in some places, a mini flat. What they call a mini flat, something they call a mini flat. You're paying 1 million naira. It's just a self-contained. They give it a nice name, a nice caption. They called it a mini flat, and then there are no standards. I mean, you get into houses that these people are renting to you, and you can't even stretch your hands. Sorry, I had to stretch you. You can't stretch your hands in the kitchen. You can't stretch your hands in the bathroom. The government of Lagos State has failed to protect its citizens. I mean, look abroad, all right, go around the world. When COVID-19 was on, the governments of different countries where you have the people who are leading them thinking. They sit down, wake up in the morning, they are thinking of how to protect their people and help make their lives easier. That's what they're thinking about. They said, you know what? COVID-19 is on. I want to talk to the landlords and those in the property market. Let's see how we can have a holiday for our citizens in terms of paying of rent, because you have, they can't go to work. There's a lockdown in Nigeria, especially in Lagos State. Landlords were on people's necks asking for their rent when they can't go to work because of lockdown. What is government doing? Nothing. Nothing, absolutely. And there needs to be a conversation on the fraud that is going on in the property market. The only thing that the property, and I'm saying this because I'm in Lagos and I feel the pinch as well, so let me talk. The only thing that is going on in the property market is the people have seen it's a basically law of supply and demand. There's a high demand, so let's fix the prices to meet the demand. Let's take it up. It doesn't matter whether people can afford it or not. We will find people to afford it. And the rest of Lagosians are having to, leave. Some are living in inhumane conditions. No standards at all. If you're paying for a 2.5 million naira for a 2-bedroom flat, at least let it be decent. Let the bedroom size be decent. Let the bathroom have a decent size. Let the toilet and the kitchen have a decent size. But the import of this story is that you have 70 people and more who paid 600,000 naira, all right, and have been defrauded, and that 600,000 naira may not come back to them for an apartment in a place like Lagos. We have to move. We'll be back with more, and of course, we look at what the papers have to say. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa.